Hello, I think I'm live. This is your companion lace. Okay, now I really think I'm live. This is your companion lace coming at you in the forest that is Lemon Grove and La Mesa, California. I should have gotten some of these videos done yesterday, but good Lord, the idea of sitting here in the corner of the center, which is the hottest part of the center, talking to you without a fan was something I simply could not do. So I am going to be making a series of videos in the next couple hours. Most of them are going to be in different forms of jackets. Right now, since this is just the preview video, I figure I can get away with just the camisole, and your job is not to ask what is going on below the waist. You don't want to know. It is so hot. Although, I gotta be honest, it's a lot better than it was Sunday and Saturday, but it is still quite warm. But I wanted to make sure, because I'm so excited about September, to give everybody a heads up as to what is going to be going on in the month of September. We are doing something that we had done before but are bringing back, which is a monthly focus. Some months it's going to be education. That's this month. Some months it's going to be the election. That's October. And September, the election, that's October, and conscious consumerism, that's November. We're going to try to stay ahead of the big things. September is the month when so many people are going back to school, if they didn't already, in August. We are going to be taking a look and looking at some of the usual suspects when people talk about education, but we're also going to be taking, as we tend to do, a slightly different take on the subject. We're going to be looking at things that a lot of people don't want to think about, partially because it makes them uncomfortable. We're going to be looking at IQ testing. We're going to be using as our jumping off place the series in Radiolab called G. There, I think, are 5 videos there, and the very first one speaks specifically to IQ tests and African Americans. I think you're going to find it illuminating and somewhat disturbing. As someone who has had a fraught relationship with IQ tests, I found it absolutely fascinating and more than a little activating, honestly. IQ tests have been used as weapons against African Americans and black and brown people for years. In fact, until recently, because of California Supreme Court action, IQ tests weren't allowed to be administered legally. They still were in California for a number of years because of the inherent built-in bias. I remember the first time I came across going deeply into IQ testing when I was studying psychology and having a very fraught conversation with my professor about it, as he was both a proponent and a defender of it as a psychologist, but also, and to his credit, a critic of them. And as you learn, and as the Radiolab shows, and it tracks very closely to what I learned in my own courses, the IQ test is not used the way it was originally meant. So few tools when it comes to tracking ability and aptitude are used the way they are. And for black people, and to a smaller extent for brown people, it has been used often as a cudgel. It is what's kept us out of AP and advanced and IS and mentally gifted minors courses. It has been what has thrown us into special ed courses, and those choices early on in life can have a devastating, even when it's supposedly a good thing, even when it's something that tracks you into advanced, can have a devastating idea or a consequence later on in life. We're also going to be looking at what can only charitably called the college admissions game, which is particularly prescient as we're talking about student loan forgiveness. And we're also going to be looking at another machine, the sports machine, that has historically chewed brown and black people up and unceremoniously spit them out. We're going to be looking at all of this in September, and we're also going to be looking at other things that we're looking at. Applied relational ethics, of course, and my focus that is going to run throughout, regardless of what the monthly focus is, be it education or consumer activism or housing or whatever. And that's going to be friendship. So many people come up to me and say, I want to be a friend. And I love that. But more than heart, friendship needs to have your mind right along with it, particularly when the focus is on lessening and mitigating the harm endured by black and brown people, perpetuated by white people and white supremacy. Toward that end, I should have had the books right here, but this is a live, so I don't want to get up and get them. But behind me, there are more than a few books on cross-cultural and cross-racial friendships that I want to bring to the fore. The one that I am currently reading and spent this very hot afternoon alternately sweating bullets and absorbing this book was a book by Andre Henry. I'm about 100 pages in of about 264 pages, and we're going to take it chapter by chapter, like we're going to take these chapter by chapter, and it's called All the White Friends I Couldn't Keep. And that has been particularly relevant in these past years, 5 years, in fact. I began Lace on Race in no small part because of what I had seen in my personal life and also in my online life with people and how they prosecuted, how they navigated relationships with their own racial and ethnic cohort and with other racial and ethnic cohorts. One thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue to do, is to drop the article from Vox magazine and also the TV interview from the Canadian Broadcasting Network. That speaks to that. I made both of them in 2020, but they are absolutely as relevant now as they are then. In fact, they are more so. When we start talking about the upcoming midterm elections, which we are going to do in October, we need to have the idea of relationship and friendship firmly in mind. We need to ask ourselves the tough questions. Are we more prepared? Are we better positioned than we were in 2016, in 2018, and in 2020 to be able to vote our values? To my mind and to my dismay, all signs point to no. And I am convinced that a large part of that reason is because even though there have been 6 years and then 4 years and then 2 years, we are no better at forming durable relationships than we were in 2016, in 2020, in 2018. And that will affect our ability to be effective and influential in the midterms. We're going to learn some hard lessons in these midterms, and I hope that those lessons are going to galvanize us, because 2022, as important as it is, I mean, bear in mind that every single House seat is up for grabs, and the avalanche, the mini revolution of 2020, which swept record numbers of women, record numbers of black and brown people, and particularly record numbers of black and brown women into office on local, regional, and state levels, and also particularly at the national level. There's very well going to be a bloodbath, and everyone is going to point to everyone else. And hopefully by the time we're ready to talk about this in October, as we go into November, we're going to be taking a good look and not just bemoaning the national landscape, but also looking at what we have or have not done on both the macro level and on the micro level to engender the change we want, to affect the world that we say we want. I do believe that it begins and ends in relationship, that it begins and ends in how we are able to live out who we say we want to be. I am also going to be doing an ask, and I am actually going to be doing more than one ask and running it more than once. And like I'm going to say in the asks, don't punish me when you see it more than once, and do consider becoming someone who financially partners with the Center for Racial Equity, either as a one-time engagement or hopefully as a sustainer. We are thinking about doing something that's kind of cheesy and something that for a long time I wasn't really comfortable with, which is offering incentives. And they'll be small, they'll be little, but it'll be something from our heart to you. Sometimes people need something tangible to be able to financially engage. You want something in your hand. So we do have some beautiful stickers that we made last year. We still have the templates for them, and we are considering offering a bundle of stickers to people who become sustainers at any level, and for people who are deciding to do larger gifts, perhaps something a bit larger or more tangible, like perhaps a print of the Lace on Race Cafe poster and or a mug or something else. We really do need your money. We're going to be talking, and this is a segue, we're going to be talking about the last 18 months interspersed with what's going on for the monthly foci. And one of the things that I really do want to be able to talk about, because it keeps rearing its head and we need to take it head on, is a question or a series of questions that people have asked me over and over. How are you doing during these last 18 months? And so we're thinking about a couple of things. One is an ask me anything. We are not going to pull any punches on that. It will be at the website, probably an interactive Zoom call with questions that people in the bistro pose to me, because the people in the bistro are the ones who are doing their best and the ones who are the major contributors to keep this space alive and going. And there are questions. And from the distance of a year and a half, I think that I can be candid, still somewhat circumspect. I realize that Holly and her team, Holly and her colleagues, have not been circumspect nor particularly truthful. But my burden is greater. We've talked about that before. I am not going to say or do anything that breaks any sort of confidentiality. There are some things that I can say, but there are some things that I can't. And I will be candid about my lack of candor. It won't do anything to change the overall narrative, but I refuse to do to Holly what Holly and her compatriots have done to me, which means when we talk about the antecedent to which led to the blow up in February, I can tell the truth, but I also have the onus to be mindful of both her psyche and her soul, and also the confidences that she placed in me. So we'll have that conversation. In terms of lessons learned, there are some things that I'll be able to say at the takeout window here on the Facebook page, and I'll say them. I will say more at the Lace on Race Cafe and the bistro and the website, and also in the tab that I don't use very often, but I'm going to start using more, which is Lace on Faith. Because there is no way that I can talk about the lessons learned and the woman that I have become in these last 18 months without speaking of the spiritual. I know that that makes some of you uncomfortable, and so I'm going to be very careful how I tread in the takeout window, but I can be a little looser and a little bit more open, a lot more open, in Lace on Faith. One of the things that I am going to talk about here in the takeout window, I will talk about the 2 videos, but I will run the videos on the website in Lace on Faith and open it up for discussion in the various dining rooms, is something that I have tracked very, very deeply with over the last year and a half. There are 2 public theologians, public commentators who I respect greatly. I don't agree with everything, and in the case of one of them, for a long time I didn't agree with most. But it's been interesting to see their evolution, and their evolution was forged by fire. I'm talking about Beth Moore and Russell Moore. To talk about Beth Moore and Russell Moore means to talk about the Southern Baptist Convention, but there are universalities within that. There are universalities in terms of saying things that people decided that they would never talk about, but that needed to be talked about. And they dared to do it, and they paid the price. Both of them wound up leaving the organizations where they had spent not only their professional lives, but their personal lives and their spiritual lives. Russell Moore was on the ethics committee of the Southern Baptist Convention and walked away. Not only from that particular board, but from the denomination itself. So did Beth Moore. Beth Moore was basically the star of the Southern Baptist Convention in terms of teaching materials and in terms of women's ministry. And basically, if you went into a Lifeway Bible bookstore, which was and is an arm of the Southern Baptist Convention, basically when you looked in Bible studies or commentaries, fully half of that was Beth Moore. They severed ties with her in 2016 when she said that she would not endorse Donald Trump. And then when she spoke out, she and Russell spoke out against both the sexual abuse scandal within the Southern Baptist Convention as well as racial reconciliation. They use different terms than I do, but the backlash was swift and sure. Russell Moore absolutely landed on his feet. Very recently, he was named as editor-in-chief of Christianity Today, which spurred me to take up a subscription to Christianity Today, knowing that I'm going to dislike and disagree with a good half of it. But I think that move should be affirmed. In the videos that I'm going to show you, they are going to talk about lessons learned. I have listened and watched both of those videos at least 30 times since they came out 10 months ago. In fact, every single time there's another body blow from Holly and Company, I watch these videos. And I have pulled so much out of them. I get something out of them every single time I watch them. And I'm going to give you my own insights. One of the things that I am going to do, hopefully this month, but definitely next month, is to sit down and write a transcript, because there isn't one, to write a transcript of the 2 videos. One is where Russell Moore names Beth Moore as public theologian for Christianity Today, or theologian in residence, and that's important too. A woman, unordained, who is now a public theologian for Christianity Today in his role as editor-in-chief, and then the question and answer series that prompted me to think maybe I should do an Ask Me Anything. Anytime someone goes against the status quo, goes against the unspoken but brutally enforced rules as to what can and cannot be talked about, punishment will be swift and sure. Now, I want to be very, very clear, because I have been called a narcissist and a charlatan and a cult leader. And there are going to be people who, even as they cringe when I talk about Beth Moore and Russell Moore leaving the SBC, are going, and who, some of whom, probably no one watching me, but some of whom who know people who have given both Russell Moore and especially Beth Moore out and out death threats, will say, how dare you compare yourself to them? I'm not comparing myself to them, but I am saying that I deeply resonate with the messages that came out of the last 5 or 6 years for them. When I think about our revenues dropping and the precariousness of our financial situation, I think about Beth Moore, who used to talk to not 1,000, not 10,000s, but sometimes 30,000 people in arenas. My heart broke when she talked about how excited she and her staff were when they would get booked for a 300-seat church, and how she counted it all joy, and how it was her privilege to give 115%, whether it was 30,000 or 3,000 or 300. And I have no doubt that if there were 30 people, that she would give her same 110%. And also the fact that both of them doubled down. Beth Moore could have made nice with the SBC. She could have walked back what she said. She could have gotten rid of some of her Bible studies that started speaking specifically about the role of women in church and about racial reconciliation and about silence in the church, about sexual misconduct. But she didn't. She doubled down. So did Russell Moore. I can do no less. I do not compare myself with these two great people in the same way that I don't compare myself with Elaine de Botton or Padraig Tuama or Phyllis Tickle or Kimberly Crenshaw or Stephen L. Carter or Terry Real. I learn from them, I absorb, and hopefully I'm able to bring some of their ideas to you in an accessible way, but I am not putting myself up at their level at all. But where I do feel that I can compare myself favorably is that I'm still around, that the community that we have co-created is still around. If you want this very flawed but heart-filled woman to continue to come to you, both on your screen and in the written word, I ask that you support the Lace on Race Center for Racial Equity so that we can continue to be here, not just for the month of September or October or November, but years down the road. If you'd like information on that, make sure that you message us. We'll give it to you. If you'd like to financially engage with us, either as a one-time or as a recurring, let us know. Make sure that you do the things that people have asked. What can we do to help? Engage on every level. Think about this, let it lay in your heart. Don't just scroll and roll. Allow it to penetrate you. Approach me with shields down, and I will make the promise to you that if you give me that gift, that I will make it worth your while. And I will neither exploit nor take for granted the trust that you place in me. Buckle up for September. It's gonna be lit.